Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The World Health Organization has reported a global daily record for coronavirus cases after more than 230,000 infections were reported in just 24 hours. Deaths in Mexico from the pandemic have risen above 35,000, with the Latin American country overtaking Italy for the world's fourth highest death toll, behind only the US, Brazil and the UK. In Spain, a judge has prohibited Catalan authorities from confining about 160,000 people, but the region's leader, Quim Torra, has advised people to stay in their homes anyway to prevent a surge in the virus. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has urged the public in England to wear masks in shops as an extra insurance policy against COVID-19 and said the government would issue fresh guidance this week.
I do think that in shops it is very important to wear a face covering if you're going to be in a confined space and you want us to protect other people and to receive protection in turn. Yes, face coverings I think people should be wearing in shops.
South Africa has introduced new restrictions, including another ban on alcohol sales to help contain the spread of the virus. A nighttime curfew has been imposed and the wearing of masks outdoors has been made compulsory. President Cyril Ramaphosa said the alcohol ban, the second this year, would take pressure off the national healthcare system. It comes as total infections exceed 250,000.
We need to save every bed in our health facility.
Poland's incumbent president Andrzej Duda has narrowly beaten challenger Rafał Trzaskowski in the country's presidential vote. Duda has won 51.2% of the votes, that's according to the National Electoral Commission. It is Poland's most narrow presidential election victory since the end of communism in 1989. Duda's win is expected to lead to further controversial reforms to the judiciary and continued opposition to abortion and gay rights. China has announced sanctions against US officials, including 2 senators, in retaliation against Washington's sanctions against senior Chinese officials over Beijing's treatment of minority Uyghur Muslims. The Chinese Foreign Ministry did not elaborate on what the sanctions will entail, but Washington's measures against Chinese officials have included freezing of US assets and US travel, as well as bans on Americans from doing business with them. The average precipitation of China's Yangtze River region recorded from June this year has reached the second highest since 1961. That's according to the Emergency Management Department. So far, floods have affected over 37 million people in 27 provinces, autonomous regions and municipalities, leaving 141 people dead or missing and 28,000 homes collapsed. A row has broken out over whether the mayor of Seoul, who was found dead last week in an apparent suicide, should have been given a publicly funded funeral amid sexual harassment allegations. Park Won-soon was one of South Korea's most influential leaders and was seen as a possible presidential candidate. His body was found in woods on Friday and his funeral began on Monday. His death came just a day after his secretary made a police complaint about his behaviour. More than 500,000 people have signed a petition saying Park's state-run funeral should not go ahead. Tokyo's governor has said the Olympic Games must happen next year as a symbol of world unity in overcoming coronavirus. The 2020 Olympics were scheduled to start this month but were postponed. Yuriko Koike has pledged to win public support for the Games, although a media survey has shown a majority think they should be cancelled or postponed again. At least 21 sailors have needed medical treatment following a fire on a US Navy ship at a San Diego naval base in California. Thick smoke visible for miles engulfed much of the USS Bonhomme Richard warship for several hours as numerous firefighting boats in the harbour poured streams of water onto the burning vessel. The ship's commander has said the cause of the explosion remains unclear. In South Africa, gusts of winds have blown huge amounts of sea foam onto the shore, covering it in a snow-like blanket of white. Along the Cape Town coast, sea foam blew across the land, covering the ground as well as vehicles parked nearby. Authorities have urged residents to remain indoors and not risk venturing outside. The wet and windy conditions are expected to continue through to Wednesday this week. And finally, Israel's Nature and Parks Authority has been encouraging people to hug trees to help overcome the sense of detachment the coronavirus social distancing rules can bring. The response to the initiative has been positive, and park visitors have said they have found comfort in tree hugging. The campaign follows a similar endeavour launched in April by Iceland's Forestry Service. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.